we're going to be diving into our highly anticipated lesson. And once again, that lesson today is going to be on options. And the way I went about this, guys, is there's a lot to know about options. A lot of it's boring. A lot of it may not pertain to you as day traders, as swing traders, but it's very important to get a solid foundation of knowledge, to know just enough about options, not just enough, but know a good amount about options, even if that knowledge and even if that doesn't really pertain to you and how you're going to go about your options trading. So again, I want to break this down into 3 parts, 3 little mini series. And we're going to have a part 1 today. You could say it's the boring stuff. Maybe it's the stuff that doesn't pertain to you, but maybe it does. And this is all great, valuable information that's going to help you become a better trader in the future as you learn new strategies and things of that nature. So, and then next week, what we're going to do is actually break down day trading options and strategies. And don't get me wrong, we're definitely going to talk about that today. We're going to be a lot more thorough with it next week. And actually, the entire lesson is going to solely pertain to day trading options and some strategies. But first, we have to understand the basics, the fundamentals, things of that nature. So you even know what an option is and how it works and how they move before we can even progress into actually day trading these options and then the strategies behind them. And then I want to bring on a guest speaker next week or the week after. I would love to do that. And if I can make that happen, I will, to talk about swing trading options and some more advanced strategies as well. We've heard of the terms diagonal roll, right? We've heard of iron condors, things of that. That is not my field of expertise, as you guys know. So I'd rather bring on the expert. And if I can bring that expert on and have them host a nice little mini series with us inside a chat, I definitely want to do that. So just keep in mind today, round 1. Day 1, options. Next week, we're going to roll into part 2 and part 3 of options trading as well. So let's not waste any time, guys. Let's go ahead and dive into today's lesson once again on options. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Options. What are options and how do we trade them? Well, first things first, we need to understand what an option is. Like, what is this option that I've been hearing about, right? What is this beautiful word I want to learn so much about? So options are derivatives. The value is derived from the performance of an underlying asset, a stock. So what does the word derived mean, right? It means obtained from something. An option's value is obtained from the performance of the stock. Okay, but the actual definition is options are derivatives, right? You have option derivatives, you have futures contracts, those are considered derivatives as well. And the value of that option contract, right, is derived, it's obtained from the performance of an underlying asset. And that underlying asset, for the purpose of this lesson, is going to be stocks, Facebook, right? Netflix, Lowe's, Tesla. So depending on what Tesla's doing, that's how the value is going to be given to that option, okay? So an option gives you the right, but not the obligation to buy or sell the underlying stock at a specific price, aka the strike, on or before a certain date, the expiration. So as an option holder, you have the right, okay, the right, but not the obligation. You're not obligated to buy or sell the underlying stock at that specific price. And that specific price would be the strike price, okay, on or before a certain date, which is the expiration date, okay? So again, you're not obligated to buy or sell the stock, the shares, right? But you have the right to do so if you wish. A stock option represents 100 shares of the underlying stock. So for example, an option could cost $1, right? You see it there on your ladder, your options ladder. It'll show maybe $1. But remember, the option represents 100 shares. So the total cost of that option would be $1 times those 100 shares, because remember, the option is representing 100 shares of that particular stock. So that would cost you $100. The easiest way for me to just look and see what the price is I remove the decimal, right? That's it, right? So $1 is the contract. So I'm going to go in $1 times 100 to get $100. Just remove the decimal. It's 100, right? If it's $2.25, you don't have to go $2.25 times 100 to know that it's $225. Simply remove the decimal. Okay, so that's what an option is. They're derivatives. Their value comes from the performance of that particular stock. As an owner of an option, you have the right, but you're not obligated, to buy or sell the underlying stock at a specific price on or before a certain date. And each option contract represents 100 shares of the underlying stock. So why do options even exist in the first place, right? I've had this question a lot. I ask this question a lot as a newer trader. Like, okay, I get the option. I understand what an option is, but what's the point of an option? Like, why do they even exist in the first place? Like, why were they created, right? So there are many reasons as to why options exist. But I was taught to think this way. And the easiest way to think about an option is like insurance. So Matt, Matt, he's inside a chat. Well, he used to be, his job picked up a lot. When he explained options to me and really broke this down, he said, think about options like car insurance, like health insurance. Just think about an option like insurance. I'm like, what? He goes, let me explain. So let me go ahead and explain. So if you buy 100 shares of ABC stock at $100, you would pay $10,000. That would be your total investment. 100 shares of ABC stock at $100 per share. Your total investment would be $10,000, correct? We all know that there's risks associated with trading stocks. And technically speaking, our total risk on that particular trade could be our total investment of $10,000 if the stock goes to zero. Okay, not saying we're going to hold it that long, but there is that risk associated with actually trading those stocks. And our total risk could be our entire investment. So, since we're thinking of options as insurance, we could actually buy a put option, okay, of ABC stock for, let's say, $500 for 30 days of coverage, right? So we're having the mindset right now. Just shift your mind a little bit as insurance. So let's say you bought 100 shares of Tesla, okay? You bought 100 shares of Tesla, and let's say Tesla was $100. You invested $10,000 into Tesla, but you want to buy insurance, an insurance policy, right? To protect your investment, to protect your 100 shares of Tesla at $100. So you're going to go out there and you're going to buy an insurance policy. And that insurance policy is going to be in the form of a put option on, say, Tesla. And that is going to cost you a premium, right? Because remember, insurance is a premium that you pay of, let's say, a $500 premium for 30 days of insurance coverage. And you're going to go ahead and buy that coverage, okay, for $500. It's 30 days valid. It expires in 30 days. And you're going to protect it at the price that you paid for Tesla, $100. So again, okay, we got to think of options as insurance. So we could buy that put option on Tesla for, let's say, $500. That would give you 30 days of coverage. And you're going to buy that policy, right? That policy is going to be for $100 a share because that's what you bought Tesla at, which would be a $100 strike, okay? If that stock's value were to go down to, let's say, $80, okay, your 100 shares of ABC stock, and again, this example, we're using Tesla, that was purchased at $100 per share, is now only worth $8,000. That would be a $2,000 loss, right? You invested $10,000 because you bought 100 shares at $100, but now Tesla drops to say 80 bucks. So now your 100 shares of Tesla is not worth $10,000. It's worth $8,000. At that point in time, you would have an unrealized loss of $2,000. But if you bought a put option, AKA that insurance policy, that gives you the right, but not the obligation. Remember, you're not obligated, but you have the right to sell shares at a specific price on or before a certain date. This would be called exercising your option. Okay, so that's what the term comes from, exercising your option. If you choose to sell those shares at a specific price on or before a certain date, which is your expiration, you would be exercising that options contract. Okay, that's your right, but you're not obligated to do that. You would be able to sell your shares to the options writer, whoever wrote that options contract. You would be able to sell those shares to the options writer at $100, even though the stock's current price is $80. They wrote that options contract. They wrote that insurance premium. They didn't think Tesla was going to go low, right? So they said, you know what? I'm going to write this insurance premium because I don't think it's going to go below $100, right? So they wrote it. You bought it from them for $500 and you have that 30 days of coverage. So again, you'd be able to sell your shares to the options writer at $100, okay? Even though the stock's current price is $80. So they're taking the loss there, right? They're going to have to buy your shares at $100, right? But it's only worth $80. That sucks for them, but it's good for you. You would lose nothing on the stock. You would lose nothing on the stock, right? But you would forfeit that $500 premium you paid for the option, which is your insurance. And would only be down $500 versus $2,000. So before we move on, I know that's a lot to sink in. I know that's a lot to digest, but does that make sense? Thinking about options as an insurance policy, okay? And if you think about it as an insurance policy, what are you doing? You're buying insurance to protect, right, yourself, your car, your asset, right? I consider myself an asset. Life insurance, right? My car is an asset. Well, not really, but you get it, an asset. You buy insurance to protect that. Your home is an asset. You buy homeowners insurance to protect the asset. So options were really created to be protection as like insurance, okay? And so again, I just want to make sure you guys understand before we move on to the next slide, okay? So we're thinking about options as insurance. And based on this example, you have a $10,000 investment of Tesla, right? 100 shares at $100. If you do not do anything and you do not buy insurance, right? And it drops to $80, that means you're down $2,000, right? We know that. Pretty easy stuff. But now let's apply the fact that we're going to buy a put, which is our insurance policy. And so basically what that allows us to do is exercise it. It allows us, right, to sell those shares for $100. That's what we paid for them. We paid $100 for them. Tesla's worth 80. But the fact that we bought insurance, we could sell those shares to the insurance company, the option writer, okay, for the $100. Where are we getting the $100 for? It was a $100 strike, okay, so for $100. So even though the stock is only worth $80, they have to buy those shares from you. That's the agreement they made with you. That's the agreement. They have to buy those 100 shares from you for $100 because that's the strike, because that's the agreement they made with you, but you have to exercise your right to do so. So again, instead of losing $2,000, right, you're breaking even on the stock. You paid $100 a share, you're selling them to the option writer, right, for $100 a share, but you're going to forfeit that $500 premium. So what's better on this example, right? Having a $10,000 investment on Tesla and potentially being down $2,000, or investing $10,000 in Tesla plus an additional $500 of insurance. And on this scenario, you wouldn't be down $2,000. You'd only be down $500, right? That's a $1,500 difference. If that's the case, let me buy some insurance on my positions, on my investments. And that was the main reason why options were really created in the first place, right? As an insurance policy, as protection. Now, yes, there's more, right? There's more reasons as to why options exist, but the way it was described to me and explained to me is it was like an insurance policy, right? So let's go ahead and move on. Types of options, okay? So we know what options are, derivatives, right? We know what they are. We know what they allow us to do, the right and the obligation, and we know that they're based on 100 shares. And we know that we need to think about options like an insurance policy. So what are the different types of options? Well, you have calls and you have puts. So a call gives the options holder the right, but not the obligation, to buy shares of a stock at an agreed upon price. Now that is your strike, on or before a particular date. That is your expiration. So an example, let's say you buy a call option that has a $150 strike and a 30-day expiration. By owning this call, you would be able to purchase shares of the stock for $150 at any point in time within the next 30 days, regardless of where the current price is. Because that's your right, ladies and gentlemen. If you are the owner of a call option that has a $150 strike and 30 days until expiration, you have the right to purchase those shares, those 100 shares of that stock for $150 at any time within the next 30 days, regardless of where the current price is. You're not obligated to do that, but you have the right to do that. So why would you want to do that, right? So let's say you have a call option. It's in a 150 strike, 30 days till expiration. Let's say the next day, the stock's price is at 200. You're like, wow, that went up quick. It's worth $200 now, right? But I hold this call option, ooh, buddy, right? So I can choose to buy those 100 shares for $150 because I own that call option and I'm way before my expiration date. So that's the beauty of options in this scenario. And it's the complete opposite with puts. So the puts give the options holder the right, right, but not the obligation to sell shares of a stock at an agreed upon price. Again, that's your strike on or before a particular date. So let's say you buy a put option that has a $150 strike and a 30-day expiration. By owning this put option, you would be able to sell shares of the stock for $150 at any point in time within the next 30 days, regardless of where the current price is. That's pretty cool, huh? I think that's pretty cool. I like that. This is cool because if you own that call option and the stock's price goes to $200 a share the next day, you can go back and buy those 100 shares for that $150 strike price and then simply turn around and sell them to the market for $200. And it's the complete opposite for puts. So in that scenario, you come out on top. Who comes out on the bottom? Who loses in that scenario? The person that wrote the option. Okay, because they're obligated. If you choose as a owner of a call, right? They have to give you 100 shares, right? And they're going to have to go buy those shares for $200 a share, right? But they're going to have to give them to you for 150, right? So you own them for 150, they're out. That sucks for them, but hey, you own them for 150, the stock's price is at $200, boom. You just made $50 per share on those 100 shares, and you could simply turn around and bam, sell them right to the market. And I think that's what's really cool about options, guys, okay? So we talked about some pretty advanced stuff. As a newer trader, this may seem pretty advanced. And don't worry, we're going to do a Q&A session. We're going to go back and answer all of your questions. But it's very important to know what options really are, guys. What are they, right? I'm sure we've all had that question at some point in our trading career. Why do they even exist? I mean, that's important, right? Why do they exist? Why were they created? Now you know. And the different types of options and the benefits of options, whether you buy a call or buy a put. So you know what I like to do, guys? I like to simplify the process, right? The last three sides may have been a little complex, a little intimidating, but again, we're going to do a Q&A session, and we're going to make sure that you understand 100%. So the simple and most popular way to trade options, right? Let's simplify the process. So options are a great way to take advantage of a stock's movements without having to put up tens of thousands of dollars to buy those physical shares. You can simply trade options, but you never have to exercise that options contract. Remember, you have the right to do so, but you're not obligated to do so. So, how do we keep things simple? If you think the stock is going to go up, you would want to buy a call option. If you think the stock is going to go down, you can buy a put option. When you are in profit, you could simply sell the options contract and collect the difference from what you paid to the current value, right? That's how we make profits, by trading options. I have never exercised an option in my life. When I trade options, literally, if I think the stock is going to go up, I'm going to go buy a call. And if the stock goes up, right, the value is going to go up as well. So there will be a difference from what I paid to what the current value is. If I paid $1 and the stock's price goes up, that call option could now be worth $150. And I could sell that right away. I can just sell it, boom, done. And I get to keep $50 because that's the difference. And the same thing with puts, guys. If I think the market's going to go down, if I think the stock is going to drop, I would want to buy a put option. And if the stock does drop, I will get to collect the difference from what I paid to what the current value of that put option is. So we can day trade options and we can swing trade options. But remember, right, very important, options have an expiration date, kind of like a gallon of milk, right? It expires. Eventually, you're not going to want to drink that milk. You're going to toss it. It's trash. Options, just like that gallon of milk, have an expiration date. Eventually, you're not going to want to drink it. It's going to be worthless. You're going to throw it away, right? You no longer have that milk. You're out the money. So options do expire, okay? If you do not sell the option or exercise the option, all right, and it expires at expiration, boom, you're done. It just expired, worthless, and you will lose your entire investment. One thing I want to hit on real quick that we are going to hit on next week, and I want to throw this in here because I think it's important at this point in time. Why do I prefer to swing puts versus swinging a short position? Because we know the stock can go up indefinitely. And if I'm shorting physical shares, I can lose more than my initial investment. We've talked about this a lot. I could technically lose more than my initial investment if I'm actually shorting physical shares. But here's the really nice thing about options. If you want to short a stock, but you don't want to actually buy or short those shares, you can buy a put option. And here's the cool thing. If you don't sell the option, guess what? It expires worthless. The only thing that you lose is your investment. You cannot lose more than your investment with the put. But in a sense, you're shorting the stock, correct? If you think stock's going to go down and drop in value, you want to short it. How do you do that with options? You buy a put. But let's say it goes against you and you were wrong. You can't lose more than what you bought the option for. Worst case scenario, you lose your investment. So it's a little bit of protection, in my opinion. And if you want to swing stocks short, there's a lot of risks with that, especially with physical shares. So you can get that added protection by just buying a put option. And the only thing you can lose if you mess up and make a mistake is what you bought the option contract for. Okay? So we know, right, what an option is. Why do they exist? The types of options. And we know how to keep it very, very simple, guys. Very simple. Stock go up, we buy call. Stock go down, we buy put. All we can lose is our entire investment. Okay? We can actually sell these contracts at any point in time. I get that question a lot. Josh, I bought this contract. Do I have to sell it at the expiration date? Nope. You can sell it whenever you want, guys. You can sell it whenever you want. You do not have to hold it until expiration. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions about options. And I had it as well, as I have 15 days until expiration. I have to hold it until there's no days left. No, that is false. If you have profits the same day, the next day, and you still have 14 days until expiration, you could sell the option at any point in time for a gain or for a loss. You do not have to hold it into expiration. So something that confused me a lot as a new trader with options were what we call the Greeks. Okay? The Greeks. You're like, the Greeks? We got Greek yogurt, right? Is that what we're talking about? Greek food? It's delicious. No. The Greeks. The Greeks are used to measure the risk and reward of an option. Again, I like keeping things very simple, guys. The Greeks are what affect the option's value. They are used to measure the risk or reward of a particular option. So the number one that we need to focus on, guys, is delta, right? This is one of the most important Greeks, okay? Delta. The delta is the amount the option contract will go up or go down for every dollar the stock moves, okay? So if the delta is $30, stock goes up $1, the option contract will probably go up right around $30, right? The delta, right, is the amount the options contract will go up or down for every dollar the stock moves. So if the stock goes up $1 and the delta is $30, that means the options contract will go up $30, okay? If the stock goes down $1 and the delta is $30, that means the options contract will go down by $30. So again, it's the amount the option contract will go up or go down for every dollar that the stock moves. The next most important Greek, right? Delta, very, 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 very important. The theta, very, 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 very important. The theta is time decay. So yes, with options, you have something called time decay. Time works against you, not with you. Physical shares, you can hold those indefinitely until the company goes bankrupt, if they go bankrupt, okay? But with an option, they will expire like that gallon of milk. And the theta represents the time decay. So the theta is the amount of money that you will lose for every day you hold the options contract. The closer to expiration you get, the higher the theta is. Believe it or not, the theta is it's just one weird, I don't know. The theta is like a little something like this. So let's say you have like a little axis, right? And this is the theta. We're talking theta, right? Let's say this is the first day the option goes live, and let's say this is expiration, right? This is what the theta does. This is the theta. That's it, right? The closer to expiration you get, the quicker it declines in value. The more the theta is, the more of an effect that it has on your contract. It's not like over and it's not like slow and steady, right? It's like literally just whoop, straight down. So again, that's what it looks like if you look at the theta on like a graph, you know, from inception to expiration. Again, the closer you get to expiration, it will literally start just dumping on off, okay? So again, the theta is time decay. And this is the amount of money that you will lose, okay, for every day you hold the position. Okay, the closer to expiration you get, the higher the theta is. So for example, let's say you buy an options contract, okay? You buy it today and you hold it to tomorrow. And let's say the stock does nothing. If you would have bought 100 shares, you would be break even, right? If you bought 100 shares at $16 today and tomorrow the stock is at $16, you wouldn't make any money, you wouldn't lose any money. But on an options contract, you have time decay. So same scenario. You bought one contract, the stock was at 16 bucks. Tomorrow, the stock is at 16 bucks. You're actually going to lose money. You're like, what? Yes, you're going to lose money because of the time decay. And it's the amount of money that you're going to lose for every day you hold the options contract. And always be mindful that the closer to expiration you are, the higher the theta is going to be. Okay? Now, these are going to be two Greeks that you don't put that much emphasis on. But it's always important to know these things, right? It's just cool. It's nice to know what these other Greeks are. And there's a couple other Greeks like Rho, like Rio, Rho, I don't know. There's other Greeks that aren't that important, but the gamma and the vega aren't something you're really going to focus on too much, but it's nice to know these things, okay? So the gamma is going to be the rate of change of the delta. So for every dollar move the stock makes to the upside, the delta will increase by the gamma amount. So for every dollar the stock moves to the downside, the delta will decrease by the gamma amount. So for this example, let's say the delta, okay, let's say the delta here was $30. So the delta was 30, okay? And we know that if the stock goes up $1, you're gonna make 30 bucks. Stock goes down $1, you're gonna lose 30 bucks, right? We can all agree on that. We got that? So the gamma is the rate of change of the delta. So let's say the gamma was $10, okay? So if the stock goes up $1, okay, the new delta would be 40, okay? If the stock goes down $1, okay, the new delta would be 20. So the gamma is the rate of change of the delta. You know the deltas are different. You got a $5 delta, $10 delta, $30 delta, $50 delta, right? And each strike has a different delta. Well, if you look at the gamma, you're going to see that the gamma represents, again, the rate of change of the delta. So again, for every dollar the stock goes up, right, you add the gamma to the delta, and that's going to give you a new delta. And the same thing to the opposite side. For every dollar that the stock moves to the downside, the delta will decrease by that gamma amount. And here in a moment, we're going to go look at an options ladder, and I'm actually going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Okay? So that's the gamma. Really not that important, but it's nice to know these things. Okay? The vega, again, something else that's not too important as, possible day traders and just simple swing traders when it comes to options. So the vega is the options sensitivity to volatility. So the vega determines how much the price of an option will change for every 1% change in the volatility of the stock. Okay, so the vega is going to be the sensitivity to volatility, and it's going to determine how much the price of an option is going to change up or down for every 1% the volatility increases or decreases of the underlying stock. Again, the vega team, you're not going to really focus too much on that. But again, it's very nice to know. So again, we have the delta, very, very important, right? You definitely need to understand the delta and what it represents and be comfortable with the delta. You're going to be looking at the delta 100% of the time when you're thinking about trading a stock or trading an option. The theta, just as important, if not probably a little bit more important than the delta, because the theta is how much money you're going to lose. If the stock does nothing and if the stock sits sideways, you're still going to lose money. So you definitely need to know what the theta is and how it impacts your options contract. Like I said, if anything, the theta is more important than the delta. The gamma, not that important. It's the rate of change for the delta. So by looking at the gamma, you can get an idea of what the new delta is going to be to give an idea of what your future profits could be, okay? And then the vega is the options sensitivity to volatility. Again, you're probably not going to put that much focus there. So I have an options checklist, okay? And I want to go through my options checklist because now we know what options are. All right, we know why they exist, the basic stuff, guys, but very important stuff. We know that there's two types of options. We got calls, we have puts, and we know what they represent, right? Stock go up, you buy a call. Stock go down, you buy a put, okay? You can sell it at any point in time for a gain or for a loss. You know what the Greeks are. You know which ones are the most important, delta and theta. And now you're probably saying, oh man, I feel good. I feel like I got some great knowledge today. I'm going to go trade some options. Back up. Hold on a little bit, guys. Hit the brakes, okay? There are criteria behind options, just like there's criteria behind physical shares and equities. And I actually have a checklist before trading any option. I don't just go out there and trade BBIG options. I don't just go out there and trade DWAC options, okay? Because there's a lot of things that we need to be mindful of when actually choosing an option to trade. And so I have a very simple options checklist, right? So when I'm looking at an option for a potential trade, I want to make sure the spread is less than 5%. Has anybody ever bought an options contract, sold it 2 minutes later, and they lost 50%? You're like, what? How does that make sense? I just bought the option like a couple minutes ago. The stock didn't do anything. I sold it. I lost 50% of my investment. That's happened to me, guys. It's happened to me quite a bit. So I put a checklist together. The spread less than 5%. So that means if you jump in right now and you buy and you sell it a second later, the spread being less than 5% means your loss would be less than 5%. But let's say the spread is 50%. You jump in right now and you jump out a second later. You're immediately down 50% on your investment. Yeah, it's crazy. So make sure your spreads are less than 5%. That's my golden rule. That's my rule of thumb. You have something called the IV, which is implied volatility. Okay. So you want to see an option, ideally for me, under 75%, especially for swing trades. Now, as day trades, I don't put that much emphasis on the implied volatility, right? But when we're swing trading, 100%. My rule of thumb is the implied volatility needs to be under 75%, especially on those swing trades. I want to find options that have high open interest. So what is open interest? Open interest is the total number of outstanding contracts that have yet to be settled. Okay? I was always taught by Matt. You want to find the option contract, the strike, all that good stuff that has a high open interest. And open interest is the total number of outstanding contracts that have not yet been settled, right? The higher the volume, the better, right? Which one's trading the most volume? Do you have one strike trading 10 contracts, or do you have one strike trading 1,000 contracts? You don't look at the volume, you might jump in to an options trade, but not be able to get out. Why? Because there's no volume. If there's no volume, there's no buyers and sellers, correct? There may not be enough volume for you to be able to get out of that position. So the higher the volume, the better. The delta always needs to be 2 times greater than the theta, especially when swing trading options, okay? So if you're going to swing trade an option, please, please, please look at the delta against the theta. If the theta outweighs the delta, it's probably not a good one to swing trade, guys. Okay, you always want the delta, in my opinion, my rule, to be 2 times greater than the theta, especially, right, mainly for swing trading options. Another rule of thumb I have is a minimum 45 DTE. And 45 DTE is days to expiration. So that just gives me time to be right. I'm not saying it's going to take 45 days to be right, but the last thing that I want to do is hold an options contract into the week of expiration. Why? Because the closer to expiration we get, the higher the theta is. The higher that the theta is, the more money we lose on the contract. We're not here to lose money. We're here to make money. So if we know the closer to expiration we get, the more we lose, let's go a little bit further out until expiration. So the theta isn't as harsh, right? It's not impacting the contract as bad as it would if you have a 10 DTE, 10 days until expiration, right? There's going to be a huge difference in theta between a 45-day expiration and a 10-day expiration. You're going to lose a crap ton more money on the 10-day versus the 45-day, assuming the stock does the exact same thing. Now, again, the further out you go on expiration, the more expensive the contracts will be. And I think that's the biggest reason why new traders lose so much money with options, is they look at a 45-day expiration and it's $1,000 a contract. They look at a 10-day expiration, it's $100 a contract. Which one's more enticing? The $100 a contract? So they start buying up all these 10-day until expiration, but they don't look at the delta compared to the theta, right? They don't even know what the theta represents, And before you know it, their contract's down 50% and the stock's done absolutely nothing, right? The stock's done nothing and they're down 50% because they're so close to expiration. Or you're only down 5% because you went 45 days out and the theta is not as harsh. However, when I day trade options, it's the closest to expiration. We call those weeklies, okay? Weekly expirations. The closest to expiration, the better for day trades, because the day trades 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. They're going to be cheap. We can buy more. They're going to move faster, okay? They're going to be better opportunity for profits, quicker profits, bigger profits. So as day traders, we're going to trade the weeklies, okay? They're going to be the closest to expiration. You have weeklies, you have monthlies, and you have quarterlies. Now, that's how they're grouped. Now, the only contracts, ladies and gentlemen, the only contracts out there that have 3 expirations per week is going to be the SPY and the Qs. Okay, so the SPY, you have an expiration date on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The Qs, you have an expiration date on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Everything else is going to have a weekly or a monthly or a quarterly expiration. So if you're always wondering, like, why do all these, like Tesla, Netflix, Lowe's, Home Depot, why do they all have Friday expirations? Because those are weeklies. Then you'll see some that are every, 45 days? No, every month, every 30 days. Like, what is that? Well, those are monthlies. But the only 3 are the SPY and the Qs that actually have 3 expirations a week. So as day traders, we want to ideally, in my opinion, trade the closest to expiration. Okay? So I know this is a lot. We really broke this down as thoroughly as possible. And I know that there's a lot to digest. Right? I know we've discussed a lot. And I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions, okay? I mean, if I was given this lesson, I would have a lot of questions as well. But remember, this is just part 1 of 3 different parts, right? This is the basics. This is the foundation. This is for you to get an understanding of what an option is, how they move, why they exist, the different types, and how we can simplify this process to better understand options and how we can take advantage of opportunities in the options market. Again, this is just part 1, guys, but I know this is probably a lot. You're probably sitting here scratching your head about a few things. So let's go ahead and take this time to answer all of your questions before we actually move on to an option trading example. We're actually going to dive into an options chain. And I'm going to show you all of this in real time. The theta, the delta, right? The implied volatility, spreads, all of that good stuff. We're actually going to go into an options chain and we're going to break it all down in real time, in real life, versus just a PowerPoint. So let's take the next couple of minutes, type up those questions. Let's go ahead and get those answered.